SCHD's annual reconstitution happens in March 2026, and based on current market data, we're looking at some significant changes that could directly impact your dividend income. I've analyzed the likely additions and removals, and honestly, some of these moves are surprising. If you own SCHD or you're thinking about buying it, you need to understand what's coming because this isn't just shuffling stocks around. This could change your monthly dividend payments and alter the sectors you're exposed to. Stick around because I'm breaking down exactly what's changing, why it matters, and what you should do about it. Here's what we're covering today. First, I'll explain how SCHD's reconstitution process actually works, because most people don't understand the rules that determine which stocks get added or kicked out. Then I'll walk through the likely changes based on current dividend data, stock performance, and sector weightings. Finally, and this is the important part, I'll show you exactly how these changes could affect your actual dividend income, whether it goes up or down, and what adjustments you might want to make before March hits. By the end, you'll know more about this reconstitution than 99% of SCHD investors. Quick disclaimer before we get into it. This is educational content, not financial advice. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. The reconstitution predictions I'm sharing are based on publicly available data and historical patterns, but the actual changes won't be confirmed until SCHD officially announces them in March. Your situation is unique, so always do your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making investment decisions. How SCHD reconstitution works. Alright, let's start with how this process actually works because understanding the rules helps you predict what's coming. SCHD tracks the Dow Jones U.S. Dividend 100 Index, and every year in March, the index rebalances based on a specific set of criteria. This isn't random. There are strict rules. First, companies must have paid dividends for at least 10 consecutive years. No exceptions. This immediately eliminates younger companies and any stock that cut or suspended dividends in the past decade. This is why you'll never see high-growth tech stocks in SCHD, even if they start paying dividends now. Second, the stock must have a certain level of cash flow to dividends. They're looking for sustainability, not just high yields. A company paying out 150% of its earnings as dividends? That's a red flag, and it won't make the cut. Third, and this is where it gets interesting, they evaluate return on equity, or ROE. They want profitable companies with strong financial fundamentals, not just dividend payers. Fourth, the dividend yield can't be too low or too high. If your yield is in the bottom 25%, you're out. If your yield is suspiciously high, like over 10%, that's also a red flag because it usually signals problems. All qualifying stocks get ranked, and the top 100 make it into the index. SCHD then holds these 100 stocks weighted by their market cap and dividend yield until the next annual reconstitution. Now here's what most people miss. When a stock gets removed from SCHD, the fund has to sell millions of shares at once. When a new stock gets added, they have to buy millions of shares. This can create temporary price movements, especially for smaller companies in the index. Understanding this process tells you exactly why certain stocks are likely getting kicked out and which ones are strong candidates for addition. Based on current dividend data and stock performance through January 2026, here are the changes I'm expecting. Let's start with the likely removals, the stocks getting kicked out. First candidate for removal is any energy stock that had weak dividend coverage in 2025. Energy was strong in early 2025, but weakened significantly in the second half as oil prices dropped. If any energy company in SCHD reduced their dividend payout or their cash flow coverage fell below acceptable levels, they're vulnerable. Based on the methodology, I'm watching companies in the energy sector closely. Second, any financial stocks that underperformed significantly are at risk. SCHD has heavy financial exposure, but if return on equity dropped substantially for certain banks, or if dividend coverage weakened, they could get cut. Regional banks particularly faced pressure in 2025, so smaller financial names might not make the cut. Third, companies in the bottom quartile of dividend yield within the index are automatically at risk. If your dividend yield is significantly lower than peers and your total return wasn't exceptional, you're likely getting removed. Now, which stocks could actually get removed? Without the official announcement, I can't name specifics with 100% certainty, but historically, reconstitutions remove 10 to 15 stocks on average. Based on 2025 performance, I'd expect removals concentrated in energy and financials. Now let's talk about additions, the new stocks coming in. Healthcare stocks with strong dividend growth in 2025 are prime candidates. Several pharmaceutical companies increase dividends substantially and have the 10-year history required. If they meet the ROE and cash flow requirements, they're strong addition candidates. Industrials and consumer staples with stronger dividend metrics may be added, while select energy names could drop. Tech faces hurdles due to dividend history. If healthcare replaces energy, SCHD's mix shifts. Energy could fall from approximately 20% to 17 to 18%, while healthcare rises toward 18 to 19%, affecting diversification and risk management overall portfolio. How this affects your dividend income. The big question is whether SCHD's reconstitution raises or lowers your dividend income. Historically, these changes are usually neutral to slightly positive. In the short term, income depends on which stocks are removed and added. If SCHD replaces a lower yield stock with a higher yield one, overall yield increases right away. For example, swapping a 2.5% yielder for a 4% yielder slightly boosts portfolio income. However, dividend growth matters more than current yield. Replacing a 3% yield stock growing dividends at 2% with a 3.2% yield stock growing at 8% improves long-term income, even if the immediate yield barely changes. Based on likely changes, healthcare additions often bring strong dividend growth, typically 6 to 10% annually. Energy stocks, on the other hand, can have inconsistent growth due to commodity price swings. So even if SCHD's yield stays about the same, future income growth could improve. Putting numbers to it. With $100,000 invested at a 3.63% yield, you earn about $3,630 per year, or $302 per month. If the yield rises modestly to 3.7%, income increases to roughly $308 per month. That's a small bump now, but it compounds over time. If dividend growth improves from 8% to 10%, monthly income grows much faster. Within a few years, that difference can reach $50 to $60 per month. In short, short-term income changes are minor, but better dividend growth and stronger fundamentals can significantly improve long-term results. So what should you actually do with this information? First, don't panic and don't sell before the reconstitution. SCHD's methodology focuses on maintaining high-quality dividend payers, and the changes are usually improvements, not downgrades. Historically, reconstitutions have maintained or even improved performance in the following year. Second, if you're planning to buy more SCHD, timing matters slightly. Some investors prefer buying after the reconstitution, once new holdings are set and short-term volatility fades. Others buy before to capture current dividends. There's no perfect answer, but I prefer buying after so I know exactly what I'm owning. For a detailed breakdown of which stocks may be added or removed and full sector projections, I share that exclusively with channel members. Members get deep dive videos, early access, my monthly updated SCHD tracking spreadsheet, and a private dividend-focused community. You can join using the link below. Finally, watch your sector exposure. If energy drops, you may need to rebalance elsewhere. Fourth, and this is important, don't chase the removed stocks. Just because a stock gets kicked out of SCHD doesn't mean it's a bad stock, but it does mean it failed to meet SCHD's quality criteria. Unless you have specific reasons to own it individually, there are usually better opportunities. Fifth, consider the tax implications if you're in a taxable account. The reconstitution itself happens inside the fund, so you don't get taxed on their buying and selling. But if the changes significantly alter the dividend income you receive, that could affect your tax planning for 2026. If your dividends increase by $500 annually, that's an extra $75 in taxes at the 15% qualified dividend rate. Finally, remember that SCHD's long-term track record speaks for itself. Since 2011, it's increased dividends every single year through multiple reconstitutions. The methodology works. Trust the process. Quick recap. Expect possible removals in energy and financials, with likely additions in healthcare and industrials. Short-term income changes should be small, but stronger dividend growth could add $50 to $100 per month by year 5. The official reconstitution will be announced in late February or early March. I'll be covering the actual changes once they're official, so make sure you're subscribed. What do you think about these potential changes? Are you holding SCHD through the